please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Naim Ibrahim. I'm the founding partner and CEO at Ipticar, the host company of today's roundtable session. And I'll be the moderator of the session later on. On that note, and on behalf of Ipticar's team, I would like to thank all of you for accepting our invitation for this exclusive roundtable session regarding corporate innovation. At Ipticar, for the past almost 2 years, we've been running roundtable sessions talking about innovation in general, and that was driven by one certain belief. For us as people in the innovation ecosystem, we believe that everybody in the innovation ecosystem has to have their own contribution, fostering the development and the evolution of the innovation ecosystem. From that standpoint of view, our contribution is to have the roundtable session. Basically, it's a platform where we foster an ongoing dialogue around innovation. Each time we select a certain topic, we invite subject matter expertise on that topic. We allow them to share their expertise, insights, views on a certain topic. And by default, we think that will enrich the innovation ecosystem. For today's session, corporate innovation for sustainable growth. The reason for selecting this specific topic, it's due to the market dynamics. In the previous months, we've been approached by a number of different entities, starting from government entities, corporate, semi-government, private, and non-for-profit. All of them with one big question: how can we incorporate corporate innovation in our entities? Their challenges between skills, strategy, frameworks, their aim is to enhance their outputs. For that specific reason, and giving us been reflecting and going back and forth with those different stakeholders, we felt that this roundtable should give a focus on that. And for today specifically, we invited a number of speakers, starting with David Launch from Digital Innovation Hub Leader at Hamad International Airport, to share with us Hamad International valuable contribution in this specific topic. Then Mohammed Ghanem, CEO of Vidiscola, agile transformation consultancy firm with a regional operation with corporate innovation. Last but not least, the engineer Al-Hassan Asam-Al-Rai, the founding partner and managing director at AppLab, the leading software development company in Qatar. Without further ado, I'm gonna leave the stage. I'm gonna ask each speaker to come and give us their presentation.
Naif, thank you so much for the very kind introduction. Just a little bit about logistic. So, thank you all for attending. Obviously, the segment I think we as panelists look forward to the most is, not so much a presentation slide, but the questions and answers session, which is, I think, will be scheduled after the presentation. So, during that session, let's make it as interactive as is possible. If you got any questions that you'd like to ask any of us, just note it down, and then we bring it up for discussion. So now, Nassef has asked me to talk a little bit about our experience at the airport. How do we go about encouraging and sustaining the spirit and the interest in innovation from within. So that's what we term as a corporate innovation. So we look at our definition of corporate innovation is basically, you can see on the slide the Wikipedia explanation of what corporate innovation is. But in simple terms, when we try to explain to our stakeholders, sorry, one of those annoying presenters that likes to walk the floor. So in simple terms, when we talk to our colleagues within our group of companies, when we talk about corporate innovation, it boils down to one thing. That is, it's founded from a deep belief that something can be done better and should be done better, and we're going to do something about it. All right, that's a key difference. Anybody can have an idea. You go to the lunchroom, you go to the staff breakout room. In our case, the airport is a vast campus, right? If it's just idea, we'll do nothing about it. That is not innovation. So we are very, very action-driven and very action-focused, right? And very early when we had this conversation too, that we'll get it out of the way. Our definition of corporate innovation, it's not about invention. All right, we make it very clear it is not about invention. The reason, just because something has already been invented, but if it hasn't been adopted or taken advantage of, then there's still good opportunity to innovate and adopt those, those techniques or technologies or whatever have you. As an example, some of our current conversation with our organization is about how can we do things faster. Got absolutely nothing to do with technology, right? So is there innovations involved? Absolutely, as you will hear from Mohammed's presentation, he's going to talk about agile organizations just before we walked in, right? So arguably, a technique like how do you encourage an organization to move faster, if you are not already in that space, by adopting that practice, that is a form of corporate innovation. So we try to delink it from, it is not about invention, it's about adopting the right techniques to take advantage of the situation for your company. In terms of, I suppose to provide a little bit of framework for our stakeholders when we get together, we talk about where are some of the sources of inspiration that can help us improve the way we do things, right? And then offer up the 3 domains with. So I'm just realizing, is there like a laser pointer or not? No, there isn't. So when we take our organization through, we typically ask our stakeholders to look through 3 possible areas, and I highlight a few examples. If I just take you through a very common one, the one about priorities and jobs to be done. So when we start the conversation within our company with regard to finding opportunities for innovation, we say, well, what are some of the key performance indicators we're being measured on, right? Wherever there's pain, whenever we miss a key performance indicator, that might be a source of inspiration on where we should go and fix it. For example, many of you might not be aware, we're part of a Qatar Airways group. We have a internal target of minimum connection time when you fly from, for example, if you are from London Heathrow to Doha en route to Bangkok, for example, right? We guarantee a 45 minutes turnaround from the moment your plane lands down to your next connecting aircraft, all right? Now, if we were missing that 45 minutes turnaround, all right, that might be a source of innovation, all right? So that's an example of, if we were not meeting our key performance targets, what we call it pain points as well, okay? The other area we ask for is to frustration, right? The top left-hand corner about experiences, right? We ask our stakeholders, including our passengers as well, love to hear from you during the coffee break. Tell me about your pain points as a traveler. And in fact, some of our inspirations were taken directly from conferences like that. One example, I think, February this year, we were at a workshop facilitated by Qatar Research Development Innovation Forum, and one of the attendees says, David, it's very painful when I come back to Doha International Airport, I don't know where my bag is, right? So it was literally a casual conversation like that, and then we're taking it from ideation through to, I'm very glad to say the team has now implemented a solution for that. So that's an example of a pain point. All right, we sometimes explicitly go out and talk to our customers, run focus groups to uncover potential areas for inspirations for corporate innovation. Finally, on the right-hand side, you can see, technology is a wonderful medium to facilitate and give rise to the inspirations for corporate innovation. Can we have a quick show of hands? Has everybody put up your hand if you heard about ChatGPT? Can you keep your hand up if you have actually tried ChatGPT? Well, I think majority of you, that's a good example of having that common conversation about, with ChatGPT, what can we do with it? So on the one hand, we talk about the needs of the customer, the pains, etc. On the other hand, it's about the enablement by various technologies such as large language models like ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, drones, robotics, 5G network, etc., it's equally okay. We tell our people you can be tech-driven as well if it provides new opportunities. Oh, the pointer does work. Okay, very busy slide. I think after the presentation, the attendees will get a copy of the slides, is that right? Yeah, so let me just take you through maybe some of the highlights of the slides here. So we termed it as the enablers, right? That enables companies to do well in a corporate innovation. There are 5 things that we look for, right? Not in any particular order, all right? That is, we ask ourselves, do we have a supportive culture or strategy to innovate? Right? Simple questions like, is innovation actually important? Is it in our mission statement? Right? So we'll start from there. And we also look for engagements with our own people, our employees, and obviously our stakeholders, our customers as well, making sure they are part of the journey. And the third area is having good processes. Can we have a quick show of hands for those of you who work in a company with more than 500 people? Okay, more than 1,000? More than 10,000? Okay, one gentleman there. More than 20,000? We work in a company with 40,000 people. As part of Qatar Airways Group, we have 13 subsidiaries. So what does that translate to? There's no shortage of ID. If you don't have a good process, you will find that people are trying to improve and innovate everywhere, and you end up reinventing the wheel. So the bigger the ecosystem within your company, the more important it is that you have good processes. But you got to pick the right method, right process for you. If you work in smaller organizations, I would suggest maybe that's not a priority. In fact, don't let the process get in the way of how you innovate. The fourth area of enablers we look for is, obviously I mentioned about technology. I just gave an example about ChatGPT as an example. And finally, having insights. Does anybody know what a BlackBerry is? Okay, for those who doesn't know what a BlackBerry is, in the late 90s, right, before 2000, right, people used to carry this mobile phone with a keyboard. They used to physically tap on the keyboard. This is before arrival of iPhones, right? Now, BlackBerry was the #1 market leader for emailing devices plus a phone. Can we have a show of hands who have actually owned and used a Nokia phone? Now you guys are showing your age, right? In 1995, Nokia's revenue was worth 2.5 billion. By 1998, it nearly doubled to 4.8 billion US dollars. It was the world's #1 mobile maker. Today, Nokia is a very small player in as far as mobile phones are concerned. Why am I mentioning this? It's about having the wisdom to go and seek insight. There's always a danger for leading companies believing that they are the #1 and #2 to the top 10 or whatever. They become complacent. When they become complacent, they don't look for opportunities for improvement. Eventually, you have famous examples like Nokia, BlackBerry, etc. History just goes on. Right, even Palm Pilot, etc. So insights is important. So when you have all 5 of that, I think you and your companies are truly on your way to do something sensational and transformative, as you can see. But if any one of those elements are missing, you potentially have an issue. For example, if we look at the second last one from the bottom, right? If you got every element except the technology is missing, lots of frustration. You got a problem you want to solve, but you haven't got a solution, right? Or likewise, if you have every element, but you don't have the staff engagement or the customer engagement, potentially there's a lot of resistance. So you want to take on board your new products and services. So putting those into perspective, here are some examples of things that companies can do. We are still on a journey. By no means, we haven't done all of that yet. It is not a destination, it is a journey. And maybe we can talk a little bit about some of those challenges during the Q&A session, including questions you might have about the challenges that we face. Okay? And that's about it for my segment. I hope we have a very interactive session later on. Thank you.
Hello everyone. It's Hassan Samurai. I'm managing partner AppLab. Thank you very much. Thank you, Naif, for the invitation. Thanks, David, for your presentation. So I'll just start with a very quick introduction of what we do in AppLab. So AppLab is a software, data, and cloud engineering firm. We claim to be the largest in Qatar. We are more than 250 employees. Our business is basically to tackle and reduce frustration. I'm taking this from David's slide. So basically, we do technology end to end. Our value proposition is basically we don't have people who are full stack. So what we do is we have different specializations, different departments, different professional teams for different stuff. So the least engagement we have engages not less than 12 to 15 specialization of any digital product, whether it's web, mobile, data, or cloud engineering. We are Microsoft partners. We are Qatar Stars League partners, and we were awarded Service Provider of the Year from Minister of Communication and Information Technology. So these slides shows you that we are a great company, very lovely, have so many clients, different sectors. There is nothing from the 33 subsidiaries of Qatar Airways Group, so maybe we should have a discussion, David. Now, maybe the contribution I would want to add for today's discussion is basically tackling corporate innovation from two different perspectives. One is what we do internally within AppLab, and the second is what we do for our customers, because we are a technology firm, and technology is becoming a cornerstone for innovation and digital transformation, basically. So within AppLab, we started as a very small company. We actually were around 10 employees, and we were very proud to be a flat organization. No one is reporting to someone else, and very small, innovative, entrepreneurial spirit. And then suddenly, within a few years, we became 250 employees, which is so much. Yeah, so I used to be part of organizations that is a few thousands or so, and I didn't realize how difficult it is to have a big company. But starting a company that became 250 employees, once we tried to, so our office is in a mall, in Mirqab Mall, and we tried to take one photograph in the mall one day, beginning of this year. And so security have came, and police also. They thought that we are protesting or something. 250 is so much. And we started to realize that there is so much issues that we have to tackle. And as David said, it's not about invention. It's about adopting existing technologies, frameworks, and methodologies to tackle problems, basically. And that is innovation by itself. You don't have to come up with a new technology or framework to innovate. You have to do something to tackle problems in an innovative way. And so we started a very big program that we called App Lab 2.0, where we started to tackle problems that looks very easy and maybe silly for people who didn't really get through such problems of how we can fix issues related to reporting, how we can fix issues related to measuring and maybe limiting indirect cost of the company. And these are all problems that affect sustainability of a corporate. And by the way, tackling these problems for our firm as App Lab have given us also some perspective of what we can do to our clients, right? Like what are really clients facing as issues within their corporates that we can tackle the way we are tackling internally within App Lab. In addition to this, there are a number of things that is basically considered as corporate innovation. That is innovation that tackles problems and contributes to sustainability of companies. That we have tackled in so many of our technology or software deliveries. Basically, one important thing that we face, and I think David also mentioned this, is that there are companies like Nokia or BlackBerry that have, with time, so they have been leaders and then someone else started to lead because they were not maybe innovating or coping up with the inventions that are happening. So what we have done is we started as a software company and we were nothing related to infrastructure or data. But then when data start to become de facto of any technology delivery that you want to do, and cloud engineering that is considered as infrastructure as well. So we started to look into these emerging technologies as well. And we started to adopt them in our delivery and started teams that delivers in these perspectives. One example of corporate innovation that we have brought to our clients was Education City platform for Qatar Foundation, where we tackled so many aspects related to corporate innovation, including automating methodologies related to transactions, basically. So within Qatar Foundation ecosystem, there is so much that is related to transactions, that is ticketing, venue booking, classes subscription, and all of this have been a pain in which different departments like finance, operations, recreation have been facing in basically sharing reports and making sure that all transactions are related to transactions that they can find in their bank accounts and so. And so this looks as a mobile app, but the technology behind it have bridged the gap. So we have had integrations with their ERP, where integrations with native payment gateways, where all transactions that happens directly relate to transactions related to GL accounts in the ERP. And this have been a great innovation. Again, using existing inventions to solve corporate problems and have contributed very much positively to the sustainability of so many models related to transactions within Qatar Foundation. One more example is the social charity. Basically, it's a framework over which charity organizations and NGOs manages their online donations and SMS donations. And we have been seeing charity organizations and NGOs who are facing so many issues related to their corporate operations. And we started to introduce data layers, we started to introduce blockchain, as well as a number of other technologies over this framework to tackle these problems within NGOs and charity organizations. I think we can talk about a few more examples maybe later in the panel, but we were talking about ChatGPT. David mentioned ChatGPT, and there is a technology that is behind ChatGPT that's called OpenAI. And Microsoft have been a great investor in OpenAI, and that's why it was one of the first companies to have this technology over their cloud infrastructure. Being partner of Microsoft enabled us to use OpenAI for corporate deliveries, basically, and we managed to tackle a number of issues over government scale platforms like Hukumi and Investment Promotion Agency of Qatar, using OpenAI technology in search, in generative chat as well, and a number of other use cases. And this have not only tackled problems within these organizations, but have also opened so many potentials that we have delivered, and we are working as well on with these organizations. Thank you very much. Thanks.
محمد غانم.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your time today. So basically, I'd like to thank Naif for the opportunity to allow me today to talk to you. And I'd like to also thank Hassan and David for their talk so much. Actually, David has spoiled part of my presentation, so thank you so much for that. So basically, I'm going to talk about similar topics, but I can claim that it will be somehow from different perspective. So let me start with, once I knew that I'm contributing to today's roundtable, I was navigating many topics to talk about today. The selected topic about, enterprise innovation and how enterprise innovation plays an important role in the business sustainability. I decided to start today's talk with this one-liner. It demonstrates the basic message I'm going to talk about today from my presentation, which is more than ideation. Enterprise innovation means weaving inventive thinking into the DNA of products and services in the delivery process. Okay, so basically the main message here that I want to stress on today, that enterprise innovation, it's not about the creativity and the level of ideation that's happening in each and every organization. Enterprise innovation means that how much your organization is able to integrate, and I can say incorporate, the innovative process or the innovation process, that's so-called here inventive thinking, into your products and services to your clients, basically. And that will be the main way of, the way of thinking all over this presentation today. I will take you in steps about enterprise innovation, and we will integrate that with the agile delivery and the differences between both of them in order to realize the importance of that in nowadays business. So let me start with, companies' transformation landscape in the Middle East region. So in brief, many companies, maybe most of the companies in the Middle East region nowadays are still working on the waterfall method, okay? Part of them started to transform, maybe starting 2015, 2016. We started to notice the hype in agile transformation in the region. Many big and large market leaders started to transform since that time, but I can say clearly that till today, very, very few number of organizations can clearly incorporate the innovation inside the process of their services and products delivery. That's eventually will lead us to the why. Why it's a real challenge even for those enterprise accounts which already moved to the agile ways of work in order to incorporate as well the innovation within the process and make the use of this in order to enhance their services. That will be one of the next slides. So let's define innovation and agile delivery. So in a very simple way, we can say innovation starts from the customer side. Innovation, we need to, start defining some terminologies about innovation. Innovation is beyond the ideation and creating creative ideas. It starts from the customer side to know the customer landscape very well. So we need to know their problems, their pain points, and actually realize what challenges our customers are facing nowadays. Innovation starts from the external part of the story, from the external actually side of the company, not internally. And then after we realize what are the main challenges our customers are facing, here it comes the second step of ideation. The ideation serves as finding the right solutions for the challenges our customers are facing. So if we can actually explain innovation in 3 words, we are going to say that innovation is doing the right things to our customers, okay? If we are talking about agile delivery, it actually is talking the other way around. It's about doing those things in the right way. So whenever we have the clarity of, our customers are facing those challenges and they need these solutions in order to have more satisfaction, then those are the right things we need to develop. How we are going to deliver that to our customer, that comes to the agile part, where actually we do those things in the right way in order to have the full cycle, starting from the customer and ending again to the customer side. So, in very brief, innovation, it's about customer. It's not about actually our ability to create creative events or actually brainstorming sessions where we actually try to generate more ideas relevant to the business, even if it's relevant to the business and relevant to the problems. Once we are in a closed room without the customer, then we cannot actually, define that as a real enterprise innovation. Enterprise innovation needs to start from the customer side all the way till we have the empathy maps that translates the customer's status, his preferences, and all of the stuff related to his issues in order to be able to spot a clear solution that will actually, satisfy our customers' needs. So, in brief, I'm the general manager of Vitskola. We are a consulting and agile coaching firm established since 2011. Our main office is in Dubai. It has been like 12 years now working across the Middle East region, helping our partner clients to have the full agile transformation cycle. And I don't know whether you have been through any of the agile transformations before or not. Can you please raise your hand if you have been through a real agile transformation in any of your companies? Can you raise your hand, please? Okay, so the agile transformation, I can realize it's new to most of you, which actually implies more details in the coming slides about agile transformation, why actually we convert or we shift our ways of work from the waterfall method into the new agile delivery model. The agile delivery model, in a very brief term, it's the new way that instead of having the full product to the customer at one time, we start doing a new way of work, a new implementation for this product in iterative mode in order to actually go to the market much faster than before, but with less functionality And then while we are testing that functionality, we iterate and develop better versions of our solution. And that's the core essence of agility, is actually to adapt as fast as possible to the customer needs, go to the market with something that we call the MVP. It's the minimum viable product, in order to test the concept and then iterate better versions actually of that product based on the customer feedback. Whenever we are talking here about the customer feedback, we are talking again about our realization for the customer insights and the incorporation of these insights within the delivery process in order to have a better version of our services and solutions, okay? It takes some time actually to get the idea behind, not the idea, the full details behind the agile transformation and what it takes in order to have a successful transformation and the value behind that. But I can say that, about Vidscola, we are the only accredited partner in the Middle East region who's accredited from the 4 globally recognized agile accreditation bodies, which are Scrum Alliance, Kanban University, IC Agile, and Scaled Agile, who have SAFe framework. And across the whole 12 years, our team grew to be 60 consultants distributed over our specialty of delivery domains, coming from different industries. So we have actually a very, very diversified backgrounds in our team in order to be able to consult our partner clients on their transformation. So talking about the biggest obstacles, I mentioned in the first slide that many organizations currently are moving to the agile ways of work, which is perfect. And many more actually are planned to transform during the upcoming years. And we're expecting that that trend will grow even bigger, having many, many other companies transforming into the agile ways of delivery. But when it comes to incorporating innovation with agile, I can see that innovation is still not there in the appropriate designed way. And in this slide, I'm trying to figure out with you why innovation lacks the needed enablement inside the organizations to be actually more effective towards services and products delivery. According to Harvard research, this research was made over 270 innovation leaders from different companies. They stated 2 main factors as the obstacles to have innovation implemented within their organization. The first one is culture issues. The second one is inability to act on signals crucial to the future business. And I can say that cultural issues, the first one, which is actually the biggest share of the obstacles respondents, comes at large organizations, usually are based on processes, procedures, and business operations. And whenever they are talking about enhancement, the usual way is to have operational excellence programs that optimize the performance and all of that stuff. Then the DNA of large organizations are actually reluctant to something that's so-called disruptive ideas that may disrupt the current business lines, disrupt the operations, and actually may affect the whole business in running all over the organization. Whenever we're talking about, I have a successful business, I do sales, and I have stable business lines, and if we are talking about innovation and new ideas, we might be talking about, new ideas that may disrupt the whole flow of the business within teams. So if we are talking about cultural issues, that's how large organizations perceive innovation and the risk that they feel when innovation is incorporated within the process. So in order to have a successful implementation and incorporate innovation as part of our process, we need to deal with the culture inside the organization. We need people to have a growth mindset and the acceptance for the change and to cater for actually new ideas and how that will be implemented within the organization. Then the second one is the inability to act on signals, and that part is actually distributed over 2 main aspects. the ability of the organization to act on a signal is a part, but the ability of the enterprise or of the company to see the signal, that's another part. So respondents here said that most of the time, their companies were able to notice and see the signal, but they cannot actually act properly on the signals. So they cannot take you can say, the needed action in order to have that signal catered for in terms of, for example, managing an opportunity, landing an opportunity, or mitigating any threat. So that's so because the organization or the company ability to act in the appropriate way on signals, maybe actually here we said that disruptive startups entering this sector and changing customer purchase behavior, all of that are signals which we need to deal with, and large organizations see that's happening in the market, but they're not able to take the appropriate action. And one of the key enabler they said here is the ability to test, learn, and iterate. And that's very, very crucial. I can say that the key enabler for innovation is the real ability of teams to adapt, move fast, run quick and dirty experiments. And that's a very, very, very important aspect whenever we're talking about innovation and agility, how you can actually run tests, experiments, and try whatever it takes in order to have more innovative services to the market and act on all signals that you can see within the market. So building an innovation requires to have something like an innovation hub, innovation team, focal point that's concerned with innovation. This innovation hub role is to, bridge the gap between customer insights, business strategy in order actually to innovate in the same direction with the same priorities of the business, and develop your products and services in the light actually of both of the customers' insights and priorities, and the business strategy and objectives as well. So I will actually end this presentation with this slide, and this slide demonstrates the full flow of innovation and agile development, and how that needs to be continuously running within the organization in order to have the continuous improvement cycle running always and usually in order to have better versions of your product. So if we are talking about the starting point, the discovery, which is so well known, we need to discover the business, we need to know more about the business landscape, the customers, the insights, including marketing, finances, and all of that stuff. And we will start the cycle, the repetitive cycle, from here, from the observe. And that part is actually the main basic part of the innovation cycle, where we build the empathy maps, where we know actually what our customer realizes as a benefit, how we can solve this problem, what is the real customer experience with our solutions, and how we can improve that. So the observe point is typically the start point of the innovation journey, where actually innovate comes later on after the observe to start the design thinking process in order to come up with solutions for the problems that we observed in the later stage, in the previous stage. And after we finish the innovate as a step, the design thinking, the ideation, okay, we have many, many ideas. We have a short list of solutions. We validated the solutions, and we have the confidence now that we know what the customer really needs, and we have the prototype of the solution that will satisfy his needs. We need to come next to the agile development. Okay, agile development here is concerned with what we will really do with these solutions, the validated solutions. And when we will develop these solutions, We need to integrate actually that with a complete feedback loop that turns later on to the customer again in order to assess what is the customer experience after we developed the first iteration of our product, and what we will do afterwards, that we will integrate that feedback again and again in the product development or the service development in order to have better versions of our products and services offered to the market. So I will ask you here a very crucial question about what if we have an agile development, which is the case in many, many companies in the Middle East right now, without the full innovation cycle deployed correctly in the organization. Can you imagine actually what will happen? We will be developing in a very adaptive way. We will be developing in a very fast way, in a very efficient way, big chunk of solutions, but we don't really know for real that these solutions will fulfill the customer satisfaction or solve our customers' problems, okay? So we might doing part of the waste. Basically, agile teams usually are under impression that they eliminated the full waste because they are developing in a very, very lean and clean way, and they are doing that in an iterative way and all of that stuff. But frankly speaking, without having the innovation cycle implemented in that way, focusing on the customer, focusing on how to know for real the customer insights, the customer pains and problems, and building also the empathy maps required to have these solutions ready, will generate another type of waste in the agile development cycle. And if we consider that we have the innovation ready without the agile development, for example, if we have, I can say, a problem with one of our customers, we know for real it's a problem, it's a validated problem, and we did the whole design thinking as a process, we did the ideation, we have the solution ready, but it took us just like, in a waterfall method, without the agile development, we stayed just like, 1 year to develop the solution and deploy it to the market. What will happen at that case, actually? You will have an outdated solution. It's the right solution, yes, but you are developing or delivering to the market a 1-year-old requirements, which is maybe 50% obsolete right now. So you are generating another type of waste here, which is related to the way of developing and delivering your products to the market. So in brief, that iterative way makes you actually achieve the full cycle, starting from the customer side all the way till internal design thinking as a process, return to validate your solution and push that solution to the agile development teams in order to develop it in iterations and bring the feedback and return back again to develop better versions of your services. By this slide, I finished my presentation. This presentation is a reference slide. It demonstrates how Vitcola actually managed the agile transformation cycle for our partner clients from one end to another. We can talk about that in our discussion later on. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed.
So we'll kick off our panel discussion. So first of all, thank you, David, Mohammed, Al-Hassan. Very impressive presentations, very insightful. And I think I'm privileged and lucky at the same time because I had the chance to have the one-to-one with each one of them prior to the session, which was very inspiring conversations, looking at the hands-on experience that each one of you guys have relative to the topic itself. If I want to start, I might start with David with a question. You advised me to be easy on the question, but honestly, looking at Hamad International Airport as a case, I don't know where to begin with. Looking at Hamad International Airport, fairly new organization, operated in 2015 in Qatar, with a large world-class infrastructure, a huge, massive team, 40,000?
That's a whole group. The actual airport team direct employee size is around 1,400 plus all the contractors.
But it's a huge team as well. So huge, diverse team. And yet, in a few years, Hamad International Airport managed to be globally recognized as one of the most innovative airports, if it's not the most innovative airport. My question, how did you guys manage to do that? Yani all the odds are against that global recognition with few years. So how you guys managed to do that?
I think it's the same magic that Qatar does for the FIFA World Cup. How did Qatar do it last year?
As simple as that.
Yeah, I think, so the key question is, how do we come from 2014 being relatively new team, right? How did we get from, day one through to where we are today? I think that part of our success is based on we recruit talent from globally, so we have that diversity. We pride ourselves on we've got about 160 nationalities working at the company. When you have that sort of diversity into the company, that we're all driven by the common sense of wanting to service, passion of our customers, right? I think that's what helped us to become successful in that regard.
Interesting. Mohammed, in our one-to-one conversation, you shared with me the history behind Agile transformation in the region. It started somewhere back in 2014, 15, and since then it became kind of a wave in the region. So if we can shed some light on that specific moment where the Agile transformation methodology philosophy got introduced to the region, to that specific entity, and how did the people manage that?
Yeah. It's working? Yeah. So basically, the Agile transformation started back in the USA in 2002 when the manifesto was initially put. And I think by 2012, if I remember well, more than 80% of the federal IT projects in the USA were moved to be an Agile project, Agile delivery way over the whole federal, 80% of the federal IT projects. This wave cascaded to the Middle East region, I think starting in 2010 as a concept. But till 2015, we weren't realizing real transformations happening on the level of the large organizations. I think starting 2015 or 16, organizations started to move. And I recall at the time, two of the big players who moved to Agile ways of work were Vodafone Egypt and STC in KSA. They were two of the early movers. And I think their move at the time shaped a big part of the transformation in the region. Actually, the motive for other companies to take the same move and transform from the waterfall method to the new Agile way of work. I can say the motive behind the transformation itself is the urge in order to adapt as quickly as possible over your offered services and products. And that urge has part to do with also the startup ecosystem that's growing all across the region. Because actually large organizations at many times, they find themselves in a direct competition with very light, I can say, very adaptive startups who can actually move very, very fast, and they can adapt their services and do a full service offer over just 1 week, for example. At that time, if you are not able to, adapt to respond as fast as the market needs, then you'll be losing part of your market share. If we're talking about a signal that you need to, catch in the market, and you have to stay for 2 months in order to wait for the executives meeting, for example, to happen in order to take an approval over the investment, in order to start the collecting requirements, then it's done. You need to move faster, you need to move to adapt in a much quicker way in order to sustain. If you're talking about business sustainability, then agility now is a mandate for any enterprise. And that's the basic motive behind many, many organizations since 2015 till now. We can see a very, very high move, and the wave is actually turning more and much bigger in 2022, and moving forward we are expecting an exponential growth actually in this on this direction.
Interesting. Touching on the startups, moving to Al-Hassan. So Al-Hassan, looking at App Lab, started in 2015, 16, grew as 10 people, and then moved to 250, 230, to above 250. So there is this struggle with the growth itself. So in the case of App Lab, how do you guys manage that kind of scale-up growth in a very dynamic market, in a very dynamic space?
I think it's a very good question. So maybe building over what Mohammed was saying in an agile methodology. So we have been also doing looking into our processes, procedures, the way we deliver, the way the company is structured in an agile way. So there is always this balance between when you are in a servicing business, between getting new projects, getting new engagements, and coping up with these engagements, scaling your company, and then realizing that there are problems and tackling them, and then these problems you tackle them in a way within 6 months or 1 year. It's totally different scale now, and then you tackle other problems. So we were always learning throughout this journey. So I personally have been part of a very big organization. I'm coming from an oil and gas background. But being part of a big organization is different from managing a startup and managing the problems that arises down the road. I believe that we have done great. Having this said, beginning of this year, we realized that there are still very big problems, right? And this cycle never ends. Like, this is what agile is, right? The cycle never ends. You keep doing sprints, Hamad Airport is the most innovative in the world, right? But maybe David knows that there is so much to do, so much to innovate more. So cycle never ends, and realizing this and understanding this helps in keeping the spirit of resolving problems and be better down the road.
Back to David. So if we go back in time to day 1 or day 0, when Hamad International Airport team decided, you know what, guys, I want to make Hamad International Airport the best airport. How did you approach that? Have you hired a consultancy? Have you guys hired a specialized in corporate innovation? How did you approach this mission?
Well, actually, the question is about what was day one journey on our innovation, corporate innovation. We took quite a low-key approach. The low-key approach is no, we did not have consultants to come in and tell us how to innovate. I suppose we took on board what we felt were our strength, our organizational strength. You have a very passionate team of airport team who are absolutely focused on service the customer. Everything's about the customer, all right? For those of you who have flown with us at Qatar Airways, you will know part of our slogan is going places together. Sometimes we see companies with very complicated vision statements, mission statements. Half the time you ask employee, what does your company do? They couldn't tell you. At Qatar Airways, one slogan. Our job is to go places together with you. You're traveling. That translates to the airport. What does that mean? One sentence. It's written on our website, by the way. It says, our job is to ensure that travel is smooth, effortless, and comfortable for all of our passengers. So with that simple understanding, a very powerful statement of our purpose, we're able to generate interest about how can we do things better. So we did not come from how do we innovate. It's more about how can we do things better for our passengers and leveraging the passion, the ideas that's coming forward from people eventually. As my colleague, Mohammed Rizwan, who's amongst our audience, he reminds me, David, part of the challenge is that when you're part of 40,000 employee companies, that it's not a lack of ideas, there are too many ideas. So, anyway, short answer to your question, no, we did not have consultants to help us. We borrowed the strength of what we were good at. Our people were very passionate about the customer. We simply just rode the wave about how do we channel their energy about generating ideas and how can we take their ideas forward and help them find solutions.
Interesting, very interesting. Mohammed, so at your end, as an external consultancy looking at this topic, how does it kick off? How do you engage with your customer's client? Do they come to you? Do you go to them? How does this starting point kicks off?
It's always both ways actually. So the basic enabler for agile transformation, if I may say, is the real sponsorship level within the organization leadership team, and their actually value for the whole transformation that will happen within the organization. Because I may say the agile transformation takes a lot of effort, it takes time, it's a long journey to realize at the end the real value behind being an agile and having an agile teams working on the ground. So it's not about, you will test it for 1 or 2 months and then you will not find the end results, then you will shut it off, okay? And if you decided to do that, then you have a setup for failure. You need to have a vision. You need to, as a leadership, to give the whole needed sponsorship and support to the model to change. And our model actually caters for, supporting the whole organizational levels inside the organization with whatever it takes in order to enable the change to happen. Agile is not about, it's not about process only. Process is part of the change, yes. But we have also a culture that needs to be changed. The mindset of the people on the ground needs to be very, very changed, and how they think of the challenge that they have, and also the values that needs to be instilled within the team. So we are talking in agile teams about shared responsibility. I cannot talk to teams about shared responsibility, and when it comes to evaluation, I take someone from the team and position him as better from the rest of the team. So actually, if it's a shared responsibility and shared ownership, we need to recognize the whole team as a successful team, or the whole team as a failed to achieve the objective. So there are many, many objectives, organizational, I say, objectives, that needs to change. And there are many, many aspects related to the new framework that will change how leadership actually cascades the new culture, because again, culture is a top-down thing. It's not built in a bottom-up, okay? So if we have, for example, I can say no sponsorship from the upper management, and they don't believe in real change for teams on the ground, even if we have a chance to work on the with the teams on the ground, it's very, very expected that we will have a minimal value out of the change, okay? So whenever, as an answer for your question, in order not to take it so long, because it has many, many details to talk about, if we are talking about what's our strategy in order to kick off the transformation with any organization, we take it from the beginning. We make sure that they have the needed vision and sponsorship from the leadership. We put the plan according to their business objectives. We have a mandate to create something in each organization that's so-called the Agile Consortium. Because actually the transformation plan is not our sole responsibility. It's a shared responsibility between many, many stakeholders inside the organization, including the leadership team. So we all partner on the value of the transformation. We all set the transformation plan, and from our side as a consultants, according to our previous experience across different industries with different use cases, many, many transformations which we have been able to deliver, we put the best practices that we saw within the transformation plan in order to, enable and make sure that we have everything is ready for the next step in terms of, setting up the teams, training all included roles, putting the plan, and coaching the execution as well, in addition to building the digital backbone, which is actually, we are an Atlassian solution partner, so we also integrate all Jira solutions with Confluence and all of that stuff to be acting as the digital backbone of the whole transformation we are doing over the organizational level.
الحسن انت you mentioned the balance between the growth and between maintaining that entrepreneurial innovative spirit within organization. And honestly speaking, based on our ongoing conversation with different entities, existing entities, both government, non-government, all of them are in pursuit to have that kind of entrepreneurial within their existing organization. But yet, looking at the scale and the requirement of the scales, that you need things streamlined, you need processes in place to really have the right production in terms of outputs, it becomes challenging to balance. So what is your strategy? How are you guys really putting these two things together in the case of AppLab as a company?
Sure. So maybe I'll start from where Mohammed have ended or started maybe also about level of sponsorship. So maybe in case of AppLab, we in the leadership of the company is actually driving this, and it is happening because of this. Now we face this with multiple government entities where there is no, the level of sponsorship is either not there or they are not enforcing this. So it is not happening. So we are coming up with frameworks and stuff, but it's not really happening. Apart from so many other challenges, so you come up with a transformation framework and you try to implement it, and then you realize that there are some other problems that is not related to what you are trying to tackle, which is really impeding your progress of applying these transformations. And then you have to have the willingness as well, apart from sponsorship level, the willingness of changing these stuff that is impeding your progress in your transformation journey. We as a software company, so I was maybe talking with Mohammed about agile methodology and how we can collaborate with the consultancy company in this. So all of the RFQs and the tenders that we receive have agile as part of the requirement, right? You have to be agile. Having this said, when we land into an organization trying to deliver, right? Yeah, agile was there, and they are asking whether you follow agile methodology or not. But an actual implementation, right? They fail. So they either fail because they want you to finish stage by stage, or they fail because of the way their organization is working. Like, we will not be reviewing anything until all UI design is done, for example, or all business analysis is done. We will not be testing until the solution is completed, for example, right? Which is not agile at all, right? So, so this lack of understanding also contributes to failures in government and so many entities. And we really value awareness and understanding coming before implementations, right? We even have agile nowadays in scopes that we receive for maintenance contracts, for example, right? How we can be agile in a maintenance contract, for instance. Yeah, so understanding and awareness, apart from proper sponsorship and willingness to change, all contributes to positive impact and outcome of such frameworks.
But this is a very interesting input from Al-Hassan, and will take me directly back to Mohammed. So, as Al-Hassan mentioned, clients will come in with their certain requirements. I need Agile, I need Scrum, I need the Sprint, deliver it for me. Regardless how that will be used, for which purposes. So, what is your insight? What is your view on why is this driven by the market in that way?
Thank you so much. That's a very sensitive question, actually, because all the time we're receiving tenders, just like Hassan said. Actually, the client doesn't know for real what is the difference between the requirements he listed in the RFP. So, for example, we sometimes face some tenders that list we need Scrum, Kanban, Safe, and any other any agile framework that you have. Actually, give me all what you have. So basically, agile frameworks are tools to implement a certain or to actually achieve a certain strategy or certain objectives. And for frameworks, if we're going to talk about the frameworks, each framework has its best use case to be utilized. We cannot actually let, for example, certain teams with a very, very high level of interruptions to use a specific framework which is not suitable for that business context, for example. There is another one which is more applicable or more fitting in terms of business. If we're talking about agility, for example, returning back to Hassan, he mentioned that, for example, there is an operational scope, like maintenance, first line support, or whatsoever. So can we apply agile ways of work over something that's not a software development? Yes, we can, but it will not be the same method we use for software development. So basically, if we're talking about operations, it's different than software development. It's different than, non-technical teams, because currently HR, finance, and marketing are transforming into the new ways of work, which is called business agility. So we can actually instill still the whole values and the way of work in a totally non-technical teams, and it will fall under what's so-called the business agility aspect in order to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of teams on the ground and so on and so forth. So people are currently, know a little bit about Agile, and they need Agile because they heard about the value that they can generate out of agility. So you can see that they refer to Agile as a Scrum, and they are not equivalent to each other. Sometimes you find that, we need Agile, aka Scrum, for example, and that's totally wrong. That's
we need
not
Sprint.
Correct. And sprints, and all of these terminologies, actually they use what they know, and our role as consultants is to sit with the clients and show the different approaches, and also illustrate the basic terminologies we are going to use in order to coach his team in order to have a real change on the ground. We're not fond actually of Agile, forget about Agile basically. We are interested in the business value. Whenever we are achieving a business value, then we're good. Whenever we are not achieving the business value, then with all respect, Agile is not valuable by any means. Yeah.
Thank you, Mohammed. David, in the journey of Hamad International Airport, trying to do this massive transformation, added value transformation, based on your experience, possibly you noticed some pitfalls throughout the process. Can you share any of that with us? And what is the main takeaways from that? Yeah, so during the implementation of transformation, you probably faced some kind of pitfalls, challenges, friction in the process itself. Is there anything that you can share with us, and what can we learn out of that?
Innocent questions about some of the challenges. I echo back on the presentation that Mohammed showed you. Based on the Harvard research, if I remember the statistics, I think is it like 71% of the challenge about corporate innovations is about the culture, right? So we sometimes get a little bit of that. So in terms of, if I were to summarize up on some of the key challenges, right? Sometimes it is about the inertia to start. Right. I'm not sure if you ever heard, particularly our audience here, have you ever heard in an organization when you ask about what can we do to better service our customers, right? And people might share with you a few ideas and then they don't take any actions afterwards. which links back to my opening slide. Corporate innovation isn't just about talking about it. Corporate innovation is about coming up with good ideas and actually do something about it. So the inertia to start and do something is often quite difficult, particularly in companies where everyone's got a daytime job. Then you came along with your bright ideas trying to encourage people to do things better. Sometimes all people see just, that means more work for me. What's in it for me? All right. As Mohammed says, sometimes, the counterpart of that is we do recognize that, people do have a daytime job. How can we reward them? How can we incentivize them to do that? So inertia to start. On the other hand, I don't know whether this is just a symptomatic of large organizations. I think sometimes in our context, there's an element of fear of failure, as in, what if it doesn't succeed? What's the consequence, right? And then you link that back to the first problem of starting to try to fix something in the first place. It's a really vicious circle if you don't break that circle. If we don't create a safe environment, then we just don't make that start. The third challenge we see a lot is that people try to perfect things, like Mohammed said, right? Just get out there, run an experiment, learn from it. Sometimes, I don't know if it's just our group, maybe, we love to do things by committee. Have you ever been in a situation where you have a recommendation and your colleague wants, or maybe he should sign off, maybe Hassan should sign off, maybe I should get you to sign off. Next thing you know, you got 12 people on the signature. Meanwhile, 6 months has already gone by, you still done nothing. All right. So, and then we try to perfect things, and it's a really vicious circle and fear of failure. I'll give you some real examples. So remember I gave you an example in February. We were at an industry event. In fact, two of the participants told us, David, it's a real pain. I cannot find my luggage when I come to your airport. I have to go in front and find out which aisle I have to go collect my luggage, right? So that was February. And then I think, what month is it now? We're now in September. What's that? We're looking at 7 months, right?
7.
Yeah. We already got the solution. In fact, we went for a walk around the airport where you collect the luggage. We got our customer service representative, our operational people. We talk about, listen, this did not just come from our own employee, this actually come from our customers who are travelers. They say they got this real pain point to fix, right? And then the team was debating about, you know what, if you put in this solution, in fact, it will take the customer more time to go and locate the baggage. One thing led to another. I do remember having a conversation, and then I just had a phone call with, a colleague in operations team. I said, remember what we said? One of the biggest danger innovations is the failure to start. We are doing it again. There is no harm. Just get it out there until the customer sees it. This is all hypothesis. This is all invented here until we get you guys as travelers to use it and give us a rating. We never know where this is going to work or not. So in answer to your question, those are some of our challenges, and we are learning our way. If you guys got all day, we can sit here and complain about all the issues about how we can do things better. Sorry.
Picking on the customer feedback. So Hamad International Airport is a massive infrastructure, and you have multiple customers all around the airport, in and out. And I will bet multiple of challenges that comes in. So as a team, how do you guys prioritize those problems? How do you deal with what's important that we need to work on and allocate the resources to fix it? What is your matrix in doing that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a silver bullet that will solve all of that. It's a great question. In fact, this morning we were just coming out of a planning team. where the business is going through it's going through the cycle of refreshing our future plans, and the same questions come up. How do we know we are working on the right priority? Looking at our organizational context, right? I think it's a right question, but maybe it's a right question. Maybe we don't need to have an answer to that yet. The reason being, I come back to this thing. Qatar Airways has been the #1 airline for 6 times, except this year. Best airline for business class, but not the overall rating. Hamad International Airport was rated by travelers as the #1 airport globally in 2021, 22, and 2023 will fall into the second place. So I think coming back to the opening presentation about we got to be careful being a top player. If we are complacent, we stop looking at what the other people are doing, then exactly is what's going to happen to us. The worst thing that can happen to us is we've got #2, #5, #50, #100. Eventually people forget who Qatar Airways is. So our challenge at the moment is not so much about prioritizing what to do. It's more about how can we get people enthusiastic about this journey, about keep coming up with ideas. Okay, and I think, Mohammed, and we need to talk after this conversation about how can we do things faster.
Is it always firefighting? Have you had a morning where you come and there is no problem on the table, where you need to make sessions to find out a problem?
Yeah, listen, I think some functions, particularly those who's facing the customers, at the cold face of it, a lot of the issues they deal with is day to day. People they don't know where the gate is, or they don't know where the nearest restroom is, right? Which comes back to the challenge about, as you say, people just doing their day job. They just have got no time to sit down and think about how they might be able to improve or innovate, right? Recognizing that is a problem. What we are actually trying to do systemically is to say to people that, you know what, we're going to create time where staff should get recognized when they take some time off on the day-to-day job and just think about how can they do things better for the passenger and reward them accordingly as well. It doesn't require intervention. Otherwise, as you say, we would just be fighting fires. The phrase is, we're too busy. That's the #1 phrase we don't like to hear innovation, when people say we're too busy to innovate.
Sure. Mohammed, in our previous conversation, briefing for this session, you highlighted the importance of your team and their expertise in leading transformation within the clients. Can we elaborate more on that?
Yeah, actually, I can say we are a consultancy firm. Our main assets to deliver our value to our clients are our team, actually. So, considering agile transformation, it's a lot different than business consultancy, for example. So let me start from this point, elaborating what is the difference. So business consultancy is related to the new process that you are going to introduce to the clients after you do the full assessment of the business landscape and the business objectives and the challenges and all of that stuff in order to achieve certain business goals, okay? So whenever you deliver the new process, then it's the organization responsibility to do the needed changes in order to achieve the target goals from this consultancy service. In Agile, it's not, as I said, it's not about the process only. It has many things to do with, the mentality and the mindset of the team. It has to do with the whole organizational setup that needs to be done and the awareness and the buy-in of the stakeholders. And I can say it's a full change management program that needs to be taken in very careful steps in order to achieve the outcomes of that. And according to that, it has many tips and, the frameworks itself, it has to be revisited in order to fit in the business context. All of that is a real experience that the consultant needs to have in order to have the valuable outcome of the transformation. Whenever we're talking about calibers and expertise in the Middle East over agile transformation, I think it's very scarce. And we ourselves are facing challenges in order to have a qualified consultant, to have been through, our internal recruitment for agile consultants or agile coaches who join our team is to have at least been through, 3 transformations hand in hand, and he experienced how transformation is happening, and he actually experienced the pitfalls and how we can make it work in order to have a real value delivered to our clients. So with this criteria and having that mandate in order to have a real practical experience, it's very challenging to hire those profiles from the Middle East, basically, because the whole practice is new. So I think over time, expertise and availability will grow much better while companies are, transforming and the use cases are continuing to grow. But as for now, yes, it's very challenging to have those people. I'm very, very keen actually about how we deliver the value, who will deliver our value to our clients. And that's why, if that's your question about our team, our team of consultants is now 15 in terms of agile coaching. We have 15 agile coaching and consultants without regard to the DevOps team and other specialties which actually support the full service delivery. Yeah.
Al-Hassan, looking at AppLab, looking at the software development space, Qatar market, is very challenging. There is a lot of local requests that would require outsourcing development, either due to price issues, due to trust issues, perceived quality issues. So the local establishments, when it comes to software development, there is always this challenge against outsourced companies. On top of that, when you add an innovation layer within AppLab, that makes it even much more harder as well. That would require some extra additional resources, investment, and all of that. So how we are navigating this dilemma?
It's a very valid question, and it's a continuous problem. And we always receive this question on how we manage to grow a company within this ecosystem, right? There's different perspectives into looking into software. People sometimes think it's cheap, it should be outsourced. Overhead in Qatar is very high, we should go outside or something like this. Now, we tackle this into so many tracks that have actually became our value proposition and the reason why we are there. There was so many incidents and experiences within the community of failure of technology projects because of the same reasons you mentioned, that is outsourcing, the team is not there. The team don't understand the current ecosystem within Qatar. We need to integrate with national authentication system. We need to integrate with Tasdeeq. We need to be in line with Qatar reference architecture. There's so many Qatari ecosystem stuff that a company that comes from outside might not have. So we filled this gap and bringing this value of a software house that have been created in Qatar. So when we say we are the largest software house in Qatar, there are some big names in Qatar. Telecom operators have their own business and technology arms. Ma'lumati, Yamannai, there are so many big companies that are system integrators, consultancy firms as well who have their digital delivery arms like PwC and some of the big four consultancy firms. we brought a very big value by creating a software in-house in Qatar that no one have tackled the way we tackled it. So we built the software house with all of the specialization required. And that have brought a very big value to our customers. And slowly they started to realize. Adoption was not very fast. There are so much clients that have had to get through bad experiences and then get on board with us. And our customers, not only government entities or end users, but they are also consultancy firms. So consultancy firms land and then have these digital components that they need to deliver, and they have their arms, which is there in India, in Turkey, in Egypt, or somewhere else in the world. And these consultancy firms realize that hiring AppLab is not only more effective, but can be more affordable, having the same constraints that we are living with an overhead in Qatar, right? We are not outside. Still, we are more affordable because of the experience, because of the existence within the ecosystem, and because the value we bring. So these points that some people think that they might be obstacles, we actually transform them into enablers for the value proposition we have been given and the value we have contributed to within the ecosystem.
Excellent. My last round of questions, just to open the floor for the audience to ask their questions, starting with Al-Hassan, AppLab 2.0. What is it and what's the future of AppLab?
Yeah, very good question. So I have, so what we have done within AppLab is we created this. We know that there are a number of problems in the company, so we created this wall of fame type of board where we have written AppLab 2.0 future forward. And we asked all employees to sign, right? They don't know what they are signing on, yeah? But they know it's 2.0, right? So it is transformative or innovative, right? In a way like what Web 2.0 have brought. And it is something for the future, right? And I was there, so they have had to sign. But we didn't know what AppLab 2.0 when we started the program, but we have knew the problems that we have, right? And we said, let's create a program, which is a motion to tackle all these problems, and let's name it AppLab 2.0. And it worked. So we started to get ideas from people, and what we thought that it is, they are the problems, we started to change our mindset when we started to talk to the employees, because they have brought some different perspective. And it is nothing but a program to tackle problems in an agile, innovative way, to have a better company for the future. And of course, without a plan, you will never achieve anything. So we have had some timelines and plans and sprints, and it is really working well. We have had so many achievements within this year, which falls under this initiative, AppLab 2.0.
Very impressive and inspiring as well. Busalman, the future of agile transformation in the region, how do you see it?
Actually, agile transformation will continue to grow. It already expanded a lot over the 4 or 5 last years, and still we can see that, you know, mapping to the experience happened in the US. Currently, more than 80% of the IT projects in the US moved to agile ways of work and agile delivery. So I think over the next 3 to 5 years in the Middle East region, things will move in a big way towards agile delivery. Concerning actually 2 mandates is, I already talked about them before, the need to be very adaptive and the risk of, you know, in order to be business sustainable, you need to actually move with the market dynamics and cater for the changes in a more effective way. So basically, instead of you having the previous waterfall way of delivery, things will start shifting, and I think it will be exponentially increasing after some time, because we have been witnessing the increase, but it's still now, I think it's a linear increase or somehow. So I think after some time, it will turn to have an exponential growth where actually all companies will have the mandate in order to move fast in the transformation. And I think, yeah, I think that's it.
Just one addition to that question. How do you see Qatar market?
I see actually, yeah, okay. In general, the market in Qatar is very, very promising. And the innovation, I think, during the last 2 years, and I think the upcoming 2 years, they will be fascinating in terms of the readiness of all entities inside Qatar to develop that aspect in their business. Whenever I talk with any entity in Qatar, I can see the real willingness towards that shift. And I can realize that there will be a big change happening across the next 3 years in the market in Qatar, yes.
David, 2 questions. The first one, how do you guys at Hamad International Airport retain the talent that has the experience of the value gained from your experience? The second question, how do you see the future of Hamad International Airport?
So the first question is, how do we keep on to the talent,
Yes.
people? And the second question is?
The future of Hamad International Airport.
The future of Hamad International Airport in as far as innovation is concerned. Okay. First question, how do we retain the talent and the lifeblood that actually service our customers? I'm very proud to say our average tenure across a company is probably 7 years. In Qatar, it's quite rare. Like the average expat is about, I think 2.7 years or something like that. So we do have a good track record of retaining people. But I think the related question is about how do we retain them? They continue to be enthusiastic. They want to keep adding back into what we do as an airport. We do have a number of recognition systems within within the company. We have Employee of the Month awards. We have also got the Value awards as well. So we link that to the recognition within the company, and there are also financial incentives as well. So it's something we have learned over the years. That not only do you need to praise people, but material means does help as well. And particularly at this juncture, I don't know if you guys also suffer this. Certainly, just before the FIFA, I think about 2 years leading up to FIFA, we were losing a lot of people. People were moving around different companies. And I think we're now seeing a second wave of that, where Saudi, the Kingdom of Saudi has been very vocal about its future. It's building another airline. I think one of our risks is potentially not retaining our talent. You must have heard stories and know people who've moved to Saudi as well. So recognizing that we have suffered a few bouts like that organizationally, we recognize that financially rewarding people is important. We have, very proud to say, that our company have been quite progressive recently. It has adopted the practice of regularly reviewing our remuneration policies to make sure we are competitive. Because if we don't, and we would just become victims of, people just move on to greener passages as well. Finally, I think your question was about what does the future innovation look like for the airport. I hope we get to the stage where we need to use a prioritization framework you do ask about. We do have one. We haven't needed to pull it out and use it yet. We do have the tools. So I hope the future where our people continue to be enthused. I hope our people continue to be motivated to want to do the very, very best for our customers, which are the passengers. That is a future, I hope. Well, that has been what's driving our innovation. I hope that continue to be the culture that is driving what we do in innovation.
Thank you. So it's time to open the floor for the audience if they have any question.
Thank you, Naif, and your distinguished guests. Actually, very informative discussion. Actually, it's again, it's very hot topic lately. Now, when it comes to the engagement for the employees, now we know that the level of engagement of employees, we cannot guarantee it's all at the same level normally in all organizations, right? And luckily, we have a wide spectrum between organizations in front of us. We have Doha International Airport. We have SMEs and large and SMEs, which is a great variety. So how we, like when it comes to how you gauge the corporate innovation level at your respective organization, you cannot guarantee that everybody will contribute to this corporate innovation mindset. And I don't think whoever not contributing will be out of the game, right? I don't think you are going to discard anybody who is not contributing to the corporate innovation. How you ensure that the corporate innovation is still there, knowing that not everybody buying into this corporate innovation. Back to, I think, to what you, Muhammad, was saying, the culture, etc. So how you ensure that this is, like, are you planning like 20% of employees have to contribute to this corporate innovation and you don't really care about the 80%? I don't know if I make my question clear here. And the second question, especially for DIA, when you try to benchmark yourself to be number one airport in the world, are you doing it from within, or do you benchmark yourself to others and you try to strive to achieve them, or you don't look at others, you continue look at your processes from inside and improve them continuously? So that's maybe I don't know, the first question who can answer it, and the second question, of course, addressed to David here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very practical question about reluctance of some people inside the organization to change, which is normal. Actually, if we're talking about change management, the change management concept is there in order to deal with the reluctance on the ground whenever we are doing any kind of, or introducing any kind of a change within the organization. To the level, actually forget about innovation, forget about agile transformation, and let's talk about a normal IT system, new system that you need to introduce to your organization, for example. If you took the implementation towards, the tool, the process, project management, and suddenly people find the new system in place, you might be subject to a big failure because people will have many, many concerns which were not addressed. You didn't cater for the requirements in their day-to-day job in order to have a customization, at least for the tool, in order to make their life easier, for example. So the reluctance as a concept to change is there on any level, regardless of innovation, agile transformation, or whatsoever. So our role here is to build the buy-in within the organization on all levels. We are talking about the leadership, we are talking about the teams level. Actually, the buy-in is generated whenever you involve and include teams within the design as a process. So whenever you are planning for a transformation, instead of, having the full cycle of the transformation plan and then come suddenly to the people telling them that this is the new plan we're going to implement from tomorrow, you can actually start training people over the new framework, introducing the need for the change, introducing the value for the change, and creating as well at the same time the safe environment for people in order not to have some skeptical mindset or skeptical thoughts about what will happen after we execute that change within the organization, because maybe the reluctance is coming from that people feeling themselves at risk or the roles at risk or whatsoever. So in large, you need to address the people and teams problems, and you need to create the buy-in for them in order to start sponsoring with you the change and start actually telling them that they are part of the success of this initiative that they themselves and you as the leader of the change have actually a common responsibility to have it successful. So all of that actually, I can say it decreases the probability of reluctant people. It will not eliminate the reluctance. Definitely you will have some issues that you need to deal with, but I need to secure that, you know, the mainstream within the organization have the buy-in to support and to actually embrace the change that we're going to introduce at large.
The second question with David regarding the benchmark of the airport, is it from within or external?
Khalid, if I understand your question, the question is how do we measure we're doing the right thing or we want to be the best? Is that the question? Yeah, the nature of the question. Or quite fortunately is in our industry, certainly in aviation for airlines at airport, there are a number of standards organizations such as Skytrax. They do, you know, they measure a range of standard things. Like for example, they looked at 52 things that each airport does. Examples include, do you have good value for money for the food offerings you have at the airport? Have you got good public transport into and out of the airport? So there are industry norms that we can compare to. And the Airports Council International has also got a bunch of benchmarks they go by. So that's the external. Okay, this is where occasionally when you stand at the airport, right, you might be interviewed by someone asking you questions. They are actually independent auditors who are just, you know, surveying the passengers. That's where the ranking comes from. That's external. This is using the voice of the customer to tell us how we're doing. Okay. Internally, we're also fortunate in, for example, the Airport Councils International had recommended standards for most of the things I would do. For example, at check-in, at a traditional check-in, when you come to a check-in counter, there are recommended standards of we should allow up to a maximum of 20 minutes for a wait time. I mean, it sounds terrible at 20 minutes. If I go to an airport, I have to wait 20 minutes, I'll probably change the airport. But there are benchmarks like that. Proactively, what we do, for example, my colleagues, Mohammed Rizwan, he's also from the passenger processing team. We use a lot of technology, we use simulation tools. We'll gauge and actually measure how long that you guys are waiting. So our benchmark is we'll always use a summer holiday or the Eid holiday when we have maximum number of people coming in and out of the airport. We got technologies out there, we know how long is the queue, we know how long the wait time is, and we will not give up until we have designed our processes and the technology to meet those needs as well. Last year, FIFA, you can imagine an airport, one of our biggest worries about, we are the first place our international visitors see when they come. We're the last place when they leave. If we don't do a good job facilitating that, I think that you will hear all about it in the news. I'm very glad to say our preparation in looking at capacity planning has helped out. So in summary, two aspects. We use international benchmark, and then they measure our performance, and internally with our guidelines we try to just make sure we do the capacity planning appropriately. So check-in wait time was an example. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Carl.
Interesting. Another question?
Yes, my question is more related to the sustainable growth part. So in Qatar, many places you find initiatives, even competitions, all kind of forms to motivate the employees to innovate. You may even form a temporary dream team, but often enough, a lot of people leave these teams. So that connection is gone, the whole thing falls apart. So how do you go about creating a sustainable approach to innovation, not just one-time thing that looks good, you meet the KPI, then it falls apart?
Okay, thank you so much for the question, and actually I talked about that in the presentation a bit, but let me build on what I've said. So basically, in order to have an enterprise innovation, or I can say to have an innovation-based enterprise, you need to continuously and repeatedly perform the full innovation process, and that needs to integrate in a very closed way with the business value and your services and products offering to your clients. So whenever we are talking about, as you said, if we are doing a competition, for example, within teams, and we are motivating teams to create new ideas, once these ideas are out, even if they are great ideas, by the way, that's a healthy practice, which is totally okay, and it will bring value to the whole organization. But we cannot say at this stage that you have deployed and integrated the innovation as a process within your service and process and products delivery to your customer. In order to have this integrated in full, you need to see the full value stream, if I may say. The value stream is the process of having your services and products all across the organization till it reaches to the end customer. So if you cannot pass by any stage at this value stream that talks about innovation and how we translate the customer insights towards new features or new products or services to deliver to the customer, then still the innovation as a practice is kept on the creativity level, or actually on pushing teams to be more creative or bring more ideas to think of the blocks and so on. So that needs to be structured from the organization itself. It needs to have a clear process, and this process needs to be fully integrated before and after with the services and products delivery within the organization in order for it to be sustainable, okay? Other than that, I don't think it will be sustainable, and I think it will be just, a nice to have thing that the organization do, but the core process will remain the same, which is actually disconnected from the concepts that we were discussing before.
Andy?
Yeah, so I have two questions. One, I think we touched upon the talent as well. So, organization, partly from a business owner's point of view and from a consulting point of view, what's the kind of weightage of importance in terms of mindset versus skill internally, right? Because I know both are important. Sometimes we focus on skill, but the buy-in and the mindset is not there, right? So what's the kind of weightage that you all try to adopt in an organization, either when you're consulting with a company or as a business owner as well? That's question number one. Second, I think related to something like what Imad asked as well. See, I've seen many companies, even in Qatar. I'm not comparing corporate innovation to ISO by any means, okay, right? So don't take it as I'm comparing. But a lot of organizations they want to get the ISO certifications, right? And that's it. They frame it and hang it somewhere. Nothing happens after that, right? For multiple reasons. How difficult or how challenging is to continue the sustainability again, I'm touching upon that, to make sure it continues. It's not to get that certification from a authorizing entity or whatever certifying entity that, okay, you have a practice, right? Having that initiating the practice is one thing, but continuing it is a different thing. So what really takes to continue? Is it funding? Is it people? What is it?
May I try to answer? I think there are two questions. Clarification. The first question is about. So could you just repeat that? Okay, mindset versus skill. So I think, certainly from our journey, gentlemen, you might, in fact, the rest of you might care to share as well. We are going through that juncture. A little bit of context. My team and I have been in our role for about 5 years, encouraging corporate innovation. Even after 5 years, we are still talking about how do we overcome the mindset. And by the way, these things are measurable. If you care to look up, there is an instrument called the Berkeley Innovation Index. The Berkeley Innovation Index, BII. If you look it up, in fact, it came from, obviously from the Berkeley College in the United States. You ask the participants about 10 questions, and you give your profile, things like, what is your level of resilience in terms of when things don't work out? Are you gonna, I think to the gentleman's earlier question, why people get burned out, how do you get the longevity going? So we measure people's ability to continue fighting back when things are not working, so that's called resilience. The other things he measures is about what is our appetite to open to change, right? And mindset, we talk about, often in a company, we talk about closed mindset versus open mindset, and we do remind people. You know that example I gave you earlier on, we spent 7 months debating whether or not we should do something. We already got the solution. The guys were still arguing about, is it good enough? Literally last week I said to the chaps, stop arguing, just get it out there until the customer like you, user, will never know whether or not we got the right thing. And having that mindset conversation is helpful. We had a common language about, do you remember when we're talking about that mindset about there's no absolutely right or wrongs, right? Let the customer decide. So look at BII, when you use that tool, encourage your employees to use it, you have a common language you can talk about. So it's less about blaming the people, it's more about, listen, maybe we got a blind spot about maybe we are too perfectionists. We're trying to, perfect things before we get it out. That's about the mindset versus skill. Skills, I think, mindsets and skill can both be built. All right, it's not growing in the corporate DNA. We believe a mindset and skill can both, it can be acquired. And your second question was, if I understand it, I think I heard you say ISO, International Standards Organization certification. And if I understood, maybe I can answer your question a different way. Has anybody heard of the Golden Circle? Yeah, some of you. About 10 years ago, a famous motivational speaker, Simon Sinek, he wrote a book called Why. Always start with why. If you've not read that book, I highly recommend you read it. The Golden Circle refers to 3 things. We, as corporate leaders, in whatever job that we do, make sure our people know why we do what we do. If our people don't know why we do what we do, it doesn't matter how we do it, or what we do. All right. Now, the takeaway from point, if I link it back to the Qatar Airways and Hamad International Airport as an example, all right, I think the powerful message is about, we are here with you. We are going places together. That is our job. You are to travel. You want to travel for business or leisure. We are there with you. That is why we exist. That's Qatar Airways. At the airport, what that means is one powerful sentence. That sentence is, we are to ensure your journey is smooth, effortless, and comfortable. All right? That is why we do what we do. All right? When we are able to boil down to something that simple, then we will then, try to measure the right things. ISO certification or other qualification, coming back to Simon Sinek's bit about understanding the why, you be careful what you measure. I think the danger is you say, it's about how many certifications we have. And then in the end, you lost the why. The why goes fuzzy. You forgot why your organization, your team exists. We are going through that journey at the moment. We don't have the answers yet, but we recognize the problem. The problem is, be careful what we measure. Is it about how many innovations we can throw out? Or is it really about getting out there and ask you as a passenger and say, did we make a difference in making your travel where you feel you were comfortable, you were smooth, you was effortless? We gotta make sure we measure the right matrix. We haven't got the answers yet, but we are at that discovery phase, the same of what you alluded to. Just be careful we don't go down this rabbit hole of getting all these awards and we end up doing the wrong things, right? History, again, is written with many failure cases when the original founder, right, unable to articulate the why anymore, employees start doing the wrong things. And I'll give you some examples like Walmart in the US. You know, they were famous and eventually got so big, they are the world's #1 retailer. Now, if you ask the employee, why does Walmart exist? Most of them cannot tell you. That's why they have so many problems in the United States about they're upsetting the communities, they're upsetting the customers as well. So I hope that somehow answers your question.
Thank you. Al-Hassan, Mohammed, do you want to elaborate on the question?
Thank you, David. I think David covered everything about the question. If I may say about the mindset versus skills, mindset is a core thing that actually enables a real transformation out of the business, I may say. And it requires a lot of work with the team over long periods of time in order to set expectations. People will not change overnight. So the leadership need to have the proper culture that they need to convey to the rest of the organization. And the transformation itself needs to have people on the ground who are working hand in hand with teams in order to set the proper mindset and culture. So eventually culture will not change as that fast. But you need catalysts on the ground in order to monitor people behavior and push the overall culture and attitude, behaviors, the mindset towards actually what's needed to have the change. And after 6 months, after 1 year, you will definitely notice a change that's happening on the ground. But mindset is crucial in order to have real impact on the business. As I said, we're not applying a process only, we're applying a whole transformation which mandates mindset, culture, behaviors, and so on and so forth. Skills is mandatory for the business to run. And it was mandatory before, and it will remain mandatory later on. So we will not actually replace the skills with appropriate mindset. Both are important, but actually the mindset is the most important actually thing that takes much and long time to evolve into the direction that you need as an organization, if I may say.
It takes effort, as Mohammed said, right? I think you kind of use the word, maybe I'm paraphrasing, champion. Has it ever happened in your workplace, someone raised a good idea and you have 10 people who says, no, we should not do it? Can we just have a show of hands if that happens at your place? Someone raised a good idea and then, you know, maybe 10 people says, no, we should not do it. So coming back to the mindset, that's a mindset problem, isn't it? Even before you talk about skill, it's a failure to launch, even before you do anything. So to Mohammed's point is about encouraging people where it's practical, we will try to use, try to leverage people who are passionate about the change. They want to make a difference in what they do and try to maybe get them to help, preach the benefit on why we should innovate. And it's not an easy journey. And in 5 years, my team and I, if every time someone say no to me, I get 10 Royale, I'll be a very rich man. I will not be in this room here. So coming back to resilience, I think it's all of our job. You do want to make a difference, have that resilience, learn not to get knocked off your compass, your bearing. Every time when someone says no to you, just keep it going, and you are part of the organization. Organizational culture are the leadership, the people they hire. The other third of it is about the rest of us. There is still hope we can influence it.
Thank you. One more question? Another one as well?
I want to ask you, how can you think that private sector can influence the public sector, okay, when it comes to change, okay? And like to not always fall into this vicious circle. So like when you get into an organization, you give more than you're supposed to give just to change a little bit there. the mindset to think of the future and to think that you or some other suppliers, they will be coming in the future and they will not face this resistance again. And also, how mature you think that is the private sector in Qatar currently to influence the government or to have the chance to demand from the government, and what you think that will happen in the future. So how is the current situation, how you think that we will be in the future?
Yeah, I'll take this. So thanks for the question. So private sector definitely have a very major role in influencing directions, influencing quality, influencing everything that government sector does. We have so many examples of projects that have really turned into successful stories because of the influence of the private sector entities that are involved. And we have also other examples of very big projects, very big budgets that have turned into failures because of the influence of the private sector entities involved. The second question related to how mature you think private sector is in Qatar. It's a very challenging question to answer because there are so many challenges within the ecosystem in Qatar. Qatar is a small country, right? We always say Qatar is a small country, it's a small market comparing to our neighbors as well. And this is a very big challenge that is affecting the ecosystem, right? We are trying to build a very nice ecosystem, but the market is not big. There are consultants which we know have came into the market and exited and came and exited 2-3 times within the last 10 years. Very big names because of this challenge, right? And we are trying to build an ecosystem that is equivalent to the ecosystem that is there in US or in our neighboring countries as well. There are so many success stories, but still it is very much, although we have had the World Cup delivered and now maybe Expo 2023 and so many events that are coming, but still there is so much to do to elevate the scale of the private sector and in general the ecosystem within Qatar. And these challenges, I mean, interacting with the different entities within Qatar, these challenges are very much known also to the leadership in the country. And there are so much initiatives that is happening trying to address these challenges.
Thank you. Dr. Ghanem? Mic take.
First, thank you, Naif, and the panelists for your insights. My question is addressed and comment to Mohammed. So I recently started to notice that many of the consultants and the developers use the agile methodology as a way or a safeguard not to deliver an end goal. So, for example, you would hire a consultant or a developer, you would sign a contract, let's say for 6 months, and they even themselves advise the use of agile methodology, for example. And then after 6 months, after many iterations or sprints or any method that you use that follows agile methodology, you do not end up with an end objective or an end goal, and they use that as an excuse just to issue a change request or to sign a new contract. So my question specifically is, how can you benefit or reap the benefits of agile methodology while at the same time achieving your end goal and respecting the budget or the initial resources that you allocate to the project?
Sorry, can I try to answer as a customer? So here and I both pointing at you. I think, certainly our own journey, I absolutely get you in terms of it's very easy to lay it out on the supply side and just say they didn't deliver. They got all these like Kanban, Scrum, extreme programming, yeah, all of that, and then they promise all of that. As you say, oh, what happens 6 months down the track, and then you end up being a change request, please, sir, another check, all right? I think what we can do on the customer side is that it's a joint partnership. I think one of the danger about hiding behind the banner of agile is about let's do things fast, right? But don't never lose sight about what do we set out to achieve and hold ourselves accountable. For example, the trouble is that if you keep experimenting, the trouble is that you never know when you got to the end or not. So if the goalposts keep moving, eventually it literally becomes time material. You just ran out of time and you just don't know whether or not you got to the goal. So one of the lessons we have learned as a customer is to be very, very clear about what is the outcome we're looking for and have those conversations very early on, and maybe have a little bit of division or responsibility of what's a consultant's job in that agile journey and what's our job as a customer. What are we accountable for? Are we there to prioritize? Are we there to provide direction? If we simply leave it at consultants, the whims to do, I think, we treat them like our extended team. If they fail, we fail. So it's in our best interest to get involved, and that will be my response. Mohammed, would be interested to hear your view on the consulting side.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the question and the answer. So basically, it's a very legitimate question actually that comes to the table whenever we're talking about an agile delivery, because talking about agile, then we need to be flexible in terms of either time or scope or so basically that's usually solved by correcting the confusion about having an agile delivery. It's not about having a 6 months of work and then you fail to deliver at the end and then you're requesting to stretch the time and I will pay the expense for that. Having an agile delivery for a project, it needs to have a certain plan with specific requirements, yes, and you will go with iterations. Each and every iteration, you as a customer have the access to assess the progress, and you will know eventually where you stand at the moment. It's still too far from the end of the project, and we are still progressing with some features and functionalities, okay? So basically, whenever we are stepping together along the way in order to achieve the final goal of the project, you are not kept in the shadows, or myself will keep myself in the shadows. You don't know what's the progress, and I will come to you at the end with a surprise that we didn't achieve and we need more and more time because actually we are agile. No, it will not work like that. So basically, if after 6 months of progress, delivery, follow-up, and actually discussion with each other, because agile, it's all about how we communicate and partner over the value. So basically, you as a customer need to be with me along the journey in order to see what I'm currently doing. And if I'm not fulfilling your expectations, it's not about the end of the project. It's about the progress that we have and the checkpoints that we do along the way in order, to see, Mohammed, you're not fulfilling the expectations and I expected more. You need to either change your way of work or actually I'll not continue the project. That's not the end of mind of the project. That's actually happens in each and every checkpoints according to the governance and the model that we agree together. So what I mean is, yes, agile makes it flexible in terms of scope and time maybe, but it allows us to catch up each and every time over the progress so far. And maybe at a certain point of time, you as a customer requires from me to change the scope itself and extend the time functionality. And I will agree with you that I will change that because we're moving on an agile basis. So basically, you, after 3 months, I'm delivering a checkpoint, a certain sprint, and you told me that, it's not fulfilling the perfect value that I need because we have a change in the business, and the business required from us to fulfill that and that as well. So I will cater for that, but I will tell you we might be in exposed position in terms of time, and that will take some time to put in the sprints and all of that in order to have the final product. So it's a mutual agreement, I may say. You will not have a fixed time, fixed scope, and you'll work agile. It will fail, okay?
And if you work it purely time and material based on a waterfall method, that's actually, I will go to develop the whole solution and come up to you with, after 8 months, with a failing position that I failed to achieve the target. That's not also an agile way of developing the progress or developing the project. So as David said, there is a consultant here who needs really to know how to develop that in an agile way and how to meet the customer expectations on the other side in order to maneuver between, scope, requirement, timeline, and all of that stuff.
And by the way, Mohammed's company doesn't do software development. He's the kind of expert you need on your team to help you to solve that problem. I think maybe, a conversation after this, I think would be great.
Yeah.
But it's obvious that there is this view that the customer has to have role in that process. Yeah. Any further question? MashaAllah. Vlaslava and then Alan.
Thank you, Naif. Well, now as most probably this is approaching the end of the conversation, I feel like we are ventilating a lot in this room because everyone, you from there sharing your experience and us listening, we totally relate to all these issues that you are talking about. I really feel the need to have closure of this discussion on a positive note. So there was a lot from your side sharing challenges and illustrating the challenges that you're experiencing. Can you please share your ultimate magic cracks, because you have success stories, right? What works to overcome mindsets, gap of talent, and anything that is there? Because as much as it sounds like mission impossible, I hope it won't take another generation or two to change this. I mean, we are living through a major crisis in the world globally, when I think humans, because humans ultimately are managers, CEOs, decision makers, people at operation level. So these corporate cultures that you guys are trying to change ultimately depend on the human mindsets and core values. So as much as, why I say we deny reality, because we see that basically you need to sustain a day being, like what it takes is being agile and innovative and flexible and fluid, right? And at the same time, even parents are teaching their kids the old school way that doesn't work. Like what I have received from my parents is, I see that it's a challenge. It doesn't work in my life anymore. So can you, looking into the future and from also your experience, say what actually works and what can bring us in somewhere better place than we are today? Thank you.
I'll maybe say one point that works normally from experience is basically teaching awareness and knowledge transfer, right? And this is something that we have seen working within our teams and working with our clients. And I always, whenever we start any engagement with any client, yes, the client have had the scope, we have had a proposal, we know what we are supposed to know what we'll be doing, clients is supposed to know what we'll be doing. But we try to have 1 or 2 sessions where we do a knowledge transfer. So we explain the current landscape of technology, what we are going to use, what are the processes involved, and this always works, because whenever you teach more, you have more awareness. There is proper knowledge transfer. People changes their mindset, and there will be some alignment that contributes to a successful journey. Whether it's within your teams, within your organization, or within other stakeholders where you are interacting with.
Last question with Alan.
Yeah, thank you. My question is slightly different. It regards employees and work, our definition of work. So I want to know from all of you how you see the definition of work changing, if it has changed at all. Because previously the definition of work has been, the scientists have defined it as work is force times distance. But now, in light of tools like AI, that does not it's not really helpful because there's no manual labor involved. So if it's non-force times distance, then is it just inputs of time? So how much time you spend working on something that's work? And if it's not time, then what's left is effort. Is it a matter of effort that's being exerted to get a certain output? So from your organizations, for example, UpLab, you've grown to 200 employees. How do you see the definition of work changing over time in light of tools like AI, for example?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, so it's a very good question that is always valid, right? It's not only nowadays, it's also in the past. Like, what is work, right? Is it spending some time over your desk, or what is it exactly? And there have been so many frameworks that have been there measuring contributions, for example, of employees based on their roles. And what we do, for example, in UpLab, we mix and match. So there are different frameworks that we use to measure contribution. And this is also mapped against cost and revenue and P&Ls of different projects and engagements we have. And this is not directly related to time. Yes, employees need to spend certain hours within the organization, but what we measure is their contribution, basically. And we never go back to punch-ins and outs unless there is a problem. There is a real problem that requires getting back to that. But what we measure is contribution. And contribution have different levels and ways of measurement based on the specialization of the different teams and employees.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hassan. So basically, if I may tackle this point, I don't have something that's called an answer for your question, but it's, we will discuss about that back and forth from my point of view about, what is the definition of work, okay? So basically, that brought to my mind another concept that's related to effectiveness versus efficiency, for example, okay? So whenever we are talking about, efficiency, it means that you need your employees to work the full hours, and whoever is working the full hours, he's being utilized 100%, he's good with the requirements, and we're done. Effectiveness is a little bit, it's not a little bit, it's very different. It's actually your contribution to the value that we need to generate actually to our clients, for example, okay? So basically, you will find that case we faced before in an interview with one of our clients. We were doing internal interviews with the staff, and we found an employee who is very, very smart. He can actually finish the task that he has in just 2 hours, okay? And we know from the logs that he stays just like, 8 hours finishing that task, because actually he knows that all of the team is taking the 8 hours in order to finish the task, and if he finished in 2 hours, he will be questioned, and he might actually get some other tasks to fill in, and so he will be overloaded with more work to do and all of that stuff. So the workaround that he got at that point of time is, I will work this task that consumes from me 2 hours, I will make it in 8 hours in order to have myself as a fair distribution according to myself and other teammates and all of that stuff. So from my point of view, that's a very controversial, discussion that we can take back and forth. And I think each and every approach has its risks that will subject to the business. But I mean here that as a business owner, I will talk about my company, I value the contribution of my team to the value I need to deliver to my clients at the first place. Okay, I'm not concerned with, people are staying half day to deliver that or 2 days to deliver that. I need to have the value. Actually, we are all focused on the value, and we need to make sure that the value is delivered to the clients. Okay, so if you ask me personally, I gauge the work at the first place with the value we deliver to our customers. After that, it may come to having proper attendance to the work, the working hours, how much his contribution to the working hours in the office, and all of that stuff. But my first trigger here goes to the value that this team member contributes to the value required from us as a company to our clients.
Thank you, Mohammed. We reached 6 p.m. It's the end of our session. As a general takeaways for me specifically, I think the innovation transformation enablers from Hamad International Airport is very insightful framework to look at it as a holistic view. An end-to-end process and journey, I think it's crucial. It's to the heart of really delivering and making impact and value. I think a major takeaway from AppLab is the ability and agility to balance between the scaling and maintaining an entrepreneurial innovative edge is something worthwhile to look at it. And I love the AppLab 2.0 as a motivation to keep people feeling the vibe of this innovative space, safe space to learn and do things. At the end of the session, I would love to really thank David for his time, contribution, our beautiful cup of coffee at Hamad International Airport, sharing his insight and experience. I learned so much out of that cup of coffee and even from the presentation. Thank to my dear friend Mohammed, flying all the way to Qatar to attend this session, specifically to Ibtikar. This means a lot to me. Thank to Abu Juri, Al Hassan. I know you are always busy, and dedicating 3 hours of his time to this session means a lot to us. I think we learned so much from you guys. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.